Welcome back to On Air B&B Football with Bryce. Today, I'm coming at you week 4, college football, 12 and 12. But before we get into that, make sure to like the video, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify. Make sure you're sharing. Make sure you're doing all that good stuff for us. Make sure to help us reach our goal where we want to get to the stadiums, talk to you guys, the fans, the players, coaches, all that good stuff. We want to be able to get out to some stadiums later this year, but can't do that without your all's help. But with that being said, let's get into it. Let's go to number 12. So this week, it's not really any major change ups just because there's no really big upsets or anything like that. There are a few little changes, so make sure you stay tuned for those. Anyway, like I said, let's go to number 12. Staying with the Utah Utes there. They had Utah State. Cam Rising wasn't there at quarterback this week. He was injured with a finger injury. But Isaac Wilson took over at quarterback, played decent ball, 20 for 33, 239, 3 tutties, and 1 interception. They had some help on the ground with Michael Bernard. He had 17, 123, and 1 touchdown. Utah State isn't, a powerhouse team or anything. Took care of business 38-21. They have a big game coming up against Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State, which Oklahoma State is 14th in FBS. But we're going to have to see with that game. I'm really excited to see what Ollie Gordon does for Oklahoma State, which this is a huge Big 12 implication game. Huge. Like this could be the winner of the Big 12 playing in this game. This is a huge game for both teams. But with that being said, let's go to number 11. At number 11, USC. Yeah. So USC had a bye week this week. USC goes into Ann Arbor this week to face number 18 Michigan, which is a game I'm so looking forward to this week. But this is USC's biggest test so far. Of course, they had LSU, which was a huge test, but it's that was a neutral site game. This is in Ann Arbor at Michigan, so this is going to be huge test for USC. Michigan isn't the powerhouse they were last year, but they're still a good team. I still have a solid defense. The offense is a little shaky, but I'm interested to see what USC does against Michigan this week. So number 10, I'm going to have Miami there. So the reason why I haven't moved Miami up a little bit is just because they really haven't played anybody besides Florida, and Florida isn't good at all this year. So that's why I have them still here at 10. They won 62-0 at Ball State. Cameron Ward is just putting up crazy numbers. Like I said, Heisman candidate incoming. So like he's just putting up some crazy numbers. They have a great ground game, but they haven't played anybody yet. So, and they have a weak ACC conference this year, which Florida State, of course, isn't what we thought they were. Clemson is iffy at times, but I don't know. I'm just not sold on Miami just yet, just because of they haven't played any tough teams yet. They have Virginia Tech at home this week. Virginia Tech's a decent team. They're not up there with anybody special, and they're not ranked, of course, but they're a decent team. I'm still looking at Miami to roll this week. At 9, Penn State. Penn State had a bye this week. They have Kent State at home. 2 weeks ago, they played Bowling Green. It wasn't pretty. They moved down last week in my rankings from 8 to 9. So, but I'm going to keep it at 9 just because they had a bye. Kent State doesn't have a very easy schedule. They just faced Tennessee. Now they're going to Penn State. So that's going to be an interesting game to see. I'm hoping Penn State bounces back from that bye week and shows up and plays ball like they should this week. At 8, we're going to go with Missouri. So I like Missouri. I wanted to move them up higher because that win against Boston College was impressive. It was an impressive win just because of it. Boston College is a ranked team. They beat Florida State pretty good, but I mean, we all know how Florida State's doing. But they play Boston College was a ranked team coming in. I think they're ranked 24 going into that game. Brady Cook has looked decent. The run game is very good. Luther Burden finally showed up in this game. 6 receptions, 117, and a touchdown. Finally had a big game. They haven't needed it from him, though. And them facing a ranked opponent in Boston College last week, I like them at 8. Going to number 7, got Tennessee. Like I said a little bit earlier, they faced Kent State. Was a blowout, 71-0. Nico didn't have a crazy game throwing the ball, but didn't need to. They averaged, on the ground, they had 3 guys out about 100 yards. Bishop had 120, Dylan Sampson had 101, and then Peyton Lewis had 99, and that they all averaged about over 8 yards a carry. Bishop averaged 17 yards a carry, and they had 6 touchdowns on the ground between them. So it's they didn't need to pass the ball at all. They have had a really solid run game against Kent State. This week comes the test though for Tennessee. This week they play Oklahoma. This is a very, very exciting game. This and uh, Michigan versus USC are 2 games this week that are huge games, especially going for the college football playoffs. This is Oklahoma is like an undefeated team also, but they're 15th in the poll right now. But with that being said, an Oklahoma win puts them probably in the top 12. A Tennessee win probably pushes them. It could push them up a little bit. Could push them past Bama. Could push them past Ole Miss. Possibly going to push them up in my rankings because they've already beat a ranked NC State team. Tennessee hasn't scored under 50 points this season yet. And the most points they allowed was against a ranked NC State team with 10. At 6, Oregon. So Oregon, a lot of people probably are going to have Oregon back a little bit. I've moved Oregon up a little bit. The reason why is if you have a little knowledge of Oregon State, usually the home team wins that game. Usually it's a close game between Oregon and Oregon State because it's a huge rivalry game between those two, and usually it's played later in the season because of Oregon moving to the Big Ten and all that, and all the how the conferences are stacked up now. Of course, it changes, but Oregon finally took care of business at Oregon State, which I get Oregon State isn't as good of a team as they were maybe last year or the year before, but it was close to the first quarter, and then Oregon finally took care of business. Dylan Gabriel is average. He's throwing the ball 80% 3 straight games in a row, which is it's crazy to think about. I would like to see him push the ball down the field a little bit more. He did a little bit this game, but I still want to see that more. Defense looked good against Oregon State, especially in the second half, switch a shutout in the second half. Just I liked what Oregon did. They finally showed up and were Oregon this game. So that's why I've moved them up. They were 3, I think, in FBS when the season started. But this game, they finally showed up, was what Oregon is supposed to be, and took care of business at Oregon State. So I like them at 6. Moving to 5. So Bama's going to stay at 5 for me. I like what they did going into Wisconsin. I really did. They did what they needed to do. Jalen Murrow's looking good. Led them in rushing and passing. Had 5 total touchdowns in the game. Ryan Williams is the stud freshman receiver. He's scored a touchdown every game so far. But defensive-wise, Alabama looks fast. They look good. They have a bye this week. Then they face Georgia. Alabama, Georgia, it's going to be an exciting game. It's, the SEC championship game the past few years. So it's going to be exciting to see. If Alabama beats Georgia in 2 weeks, then Bama's probably going to move up to 2 or 1. It's going to happen. But that's a game I'm so excited to watch. But that's for a later video, maybe next week. So moving on to 4, going Ole Miss still. Ole Miss has their highest points per game through the first few weeks ever. I think it's one of the highest from any team ever. They took care of business against Wake Forest at Wake Forest. Wake Forest actually canceled their game against Ole Miss last year, which Lane Kiffin came out and was not happy about. The ground game at Ole Miss looks very good. The defense looks very good. I just still like Ole Miss a little bit better than Bama. But like I said, if Bama beats Georgia in 2 weeks, they're definitely moving above Ole Miss. At 3, we got Ohio State. They were on a bye this week. They've been at 3 through all the rankings. They're going to stay at 3. They have Marshall at home this week. I don't think it's going to be close. It shouldn't be close. I'm just looking for Ohio State to keep rolling. Number 2, we're going to go Georgia. So the game I was watching with Kentucky, it was a little scary for Georgia fans probably. Kentucky always plays them tough. It's been a close game for the past few years. When they do play Kentucky, they just couldn't get anything going. It was sloppy. It was sloppy football. They didn't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter. Kentucky was leading through 3 quarters. It was 9-6. It wasn't Georgia football. Georgia couldn't really stop it's not that they couldn't stop Kentucky from running the football, but Kentucky was running the football very decently against a Georgia defense. When you look at it, it's a little over 4.5 yards per carry by the running backs, but that's still, four almost 5 yards a carry. That moves the ball down the field a little bit at a time. 4.5 yards a carry is nothing to be disappointed about, especially against a tough Georgia defense that's supposed to be one of the best defenses in college football. I didn't take it out of proportion too much just because it is Kentucky at Kentucky and it always is a close game. But with that being said, we'll move to number 1, Texas. So Texas, Quinn Ewers is out. He's going to be out this week too against LA Monroe. But Arch Manning didn't start. Arch Manning looked really good. There should not be any controversy, though, about who's starting when Quinn Ewers is healthy. I think they should at least wait until Quinn Ewers is 100% healthy to start him back. But there should be no question to who should be the starter. Quinn Ewers is a Heisman candidate. It's Quinn Ewers' job. There should be no discussion about it. Even if Arch Manning lights it up, it's not like he's lighting it up against Georgia or lighting up against the Michigan team. If he would have done that against Michigan a few weeks ago, it'd be a whole different conversation. But he did it against UTSA. He's playing this week against LA Monroe. I don't think there should be any question. You just go with Ewers. You do. He's the veteran. You let Arch Manning still sit. Keep him healthy for next year because that Texas team is still going to be good next year. There should be no question about who's starting at Texas when Ewers is fully healthy. But yeah, that is my college football 12 and 12. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, whatever you're doing. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to comment. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I should have some teams, where I shouldn't, whatever. Share with everybody you know. Just help us reach that goal, please. Talking to you, the fans, players, coaches, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you.